You know the feeling, right? It's late, you're just scrolling through real estate listings, and it hits you. Every single house that doesn't look like it's one strong gust of wind away from collapsing costs $500,000. You're looking at kitchens with countertops from 2003, there's beige carpet everywhere, and you just have to wonder, has the entire market lost its mind? Well, here's the thing. It's not you. It's the math. And today, we're going to break down that absolutely brutal math.
And this is what really gets you, doesn't it? This quote just sums up that feeling perfectly. You're looking at a price tag that requires a frankly ridiculous income for a house that is, let's be honest, completely and totally average, and they have the nerve to call it a starter home. It just feels impossible.
So, that brings us to the big question for this whole explainer. Who can really, truly afford this? And look, I'm not talking about who the bank is willing to approve for a loan. I'm talking about who can afford it without basically signing up for a 30-year financial stress test. Because trust me, there is a massive, massive difference between what you qualify for and what won't keep you up at night. Okay, let's just dive right into the heart of it. In dozens of US markets, $500,000 is the new normal. And for that price, you are not getting a mansion. You're getting a regular, maybe 1,200 square foot house. This is the new price for just normal. And that becomes a massive problem when you look at what people are actually earning.
So this number right here, $84,000, that's the median household income in America. Yeah. So we're asking a typical family to somehow afford a home that costs 6 times their entire yearly income. If that sounds completely upside down to you, well, congratulations, you're paying attention.
And here on this slide, this is the very first wall most people smash into. It's the down payment. The old rule, the one everyone talks about, is 20%. Well, on a $500,000 house, that's $100,000, cash. But the median savings account in America, it's got about $8,000. That's not a gap, my friends. That is a $92,000 canyon.
Okay, so since most people can't come up with that $100,000, they get hit with this little penalty. It's called PMI. You should really just think of it as a fee you pay every single month for the crime of not already being rich. Seriously, it's insurance that protects the bank, not you, because they know you're a bigger risk. It is basically a poverty tax baked right into your house payment. So let's say you do it. You skip the 20% down payment. You accept that PMI penalty. What does the actual all-in monthly bill look like? Let's spill that out right now, because I promise you the number the bank shows you is just the beginning of the story. All right, let's add this up. You start with your basic principal and interest on a $450,000 loan. That's going to be around $2,850 a month. Then you tack on property taxes. We'll be conservative and call it $500 a month. Then you've got homeowner's insurance, which has gone through the roof lately. Let's add another $300. Oh, and maintenance. The famous 1% rule says you should budget about $417 a month for when the water heater inevitably explodes. And finally, there's that PMI we just talked about. Another $300 a month, just gone. And when you add all that up, you get to this. Just look at that number. Your real monthly housing cost is almost $4,400, and that is a conservative estimate. That's your bill assuming absolutely nothing major goes wrong. No new roof, no surprise plumbing issues, nothing. That's your best case scenario.
Okay, so this is where it gets kind of fun, but also kind of terrifying. Now that we know the monthly cost is around $4,400, we can work backward and figure out what kind of salary you actually need to have to support that payment without eating ramen noodles for the rest of your life.
And here's what's so crucial to understand. There are 2 completely different sets of rules. A good financial advisor will tell you, hey, don't spend more than 28% of your gross income on housing. To follow that very safe, very smart rule, you would need to earn $187,000 a year. The banks, though, they play by a different rule book. They'll approve you up to a much, much riskier 43% debt-to-income ratio. But even with their aggressive math, you still need to be making $150,000.
And this slide is the punchline to the whole joke. This chart shows that only about 15% of all households in the entire United States actually earn $150,000 or more. So, even by the bank's super lenient, risky standard, 85% of the country cannot comfortably afford this so-called starter home. That's not an opinion, that's just the math being cruel.
But wait, people are still buying these houses, right? So let's make these numbers painfully real. Let's imagine a household, we'll call them the Johnsons. They're 2 working professionals, their combined income is $160,000 a year. They're doing great. Way above the median. They should be comfortable, right? Well, let's see. Okay, so the Johnsons, after taxes, bring home about $9,500 a month. Solid. First, you just rip out that massive housing cost we calculated. Poof, they're down to about $5,100. But then, life happens. 2 car payments, $800. Student loans, another $600. Groceries for a family, $800, easy. Utilities, phones, insurance. Suddenly that $9,500 is almost gone. They are left with just over $1,500 for everything else. Savings, emergencies, clothes for the kids, maybe. A vacation? No way. Almost half their take-home pay is gone before they can even think about getting ahead.
So look, this isn't just a story about one family with a tight budget. It points to something much, much bigger. It really forces you to ask the question, why is the system designed to push good people earning good money, into a situation that's so incredibly fragile?
Well, the simple answer is that the system isn't really designed for your long-term financial health. Think about who gets paid when you buy a house. The sellers get their money. The banks start collecting interest immediately. The real estate agents get their commission. Their incentive is to get the deal closed. It's not to make sure you can actually comfortably afford that house for the next 30 years.
And this chart right here is the result. This is the big, structural problem we're all swimming against. Home prices have just absolutely exploded, while incomes have basically crawled along at a snail's pace. The lines on this graph used to run together. Now they've split so far apart that the old math, the math our parents and grandparents used, it just doesn't work anymore.
So what do? If the old American dream is mathematically broken for most people, what's the alternative? And this part is so important. This isn't about giving up. Not at all. It's about redefining what a win actually looks like.
Look at this comparison. On the left is the reality of the old dream for way too many people. You're house poor, you're stressed out, all your money is trapped inside the walls of your house. But the real win, the thing we should all be aiming for, is on the right. It's having financial margin in your budget. It's the ability to invest your money. It's peace of mind. It's freedom.
This means we have to take a smarter approach. It means you have to run your own honest numbers. You have to tune out the social pressure from your friends and your family. For you, it might mean continuing to rent for a while and investing the difference, or maybe looking at a smaller home or a different neighborhood. The key is to make a decision based on your reality, not on someone else's outdated dream. And really, it all comes down to this one idea. Real, actual wealth isn't about owning an asset that traps you and makes you anxious every single month. It's about having the freedom and the flexibility to live your life without being a prisoner to your mortgage payment.
So I'm just going to leave you with this one last thought. The real question you need to ask isn't, will a bank give me a loan? The question you have to ask yourself, honestly, is this: will buying this house actually make my life better? Or will it just make me a financial servant to a building for the next 30 years? When you run the honest numbers, the answer for a whole lot of people becomes uncomfortably clear.